Welcome to the Why Music podcast, where we talk to independent artists about their journeys, the inspirations behind their music, and ultimately why they make music. This next artist is a self taught musician turned songwriter. Finding therapy in writing lyrics and crafting melodies, every track he writes feels close to home. Welcome, Moy.
Hello, Ava. Thank you so much for having me on
Thanks
to
for
talk
being
about
here.
my songs. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm just waking up. Actually, it's feels like 8 a.m. here for me. I'm in Bali at the moment, taking a couple of weeks off. Nice holiday with my girlfriend, which has been an interesting place to release music because I'm usually, locked in watching my screen, watching streams roll in, which is actually not really the healthiest thing to do. But here I've really managed to get away from it or distract myself. And it's actually probably for that reason the most I've enjoyed releasing music because I've just, you know, sometimes I've had to just be disconnected and it's been, yeah, really healthy, really good.
Yeah. Sometimes it's nice to just let it rip and then just not even touch it for like another 2 weeks and just let it do what it's gonna do, and then we'll circle back later.
100%. And that's kind of what I've learned. I've definitely learned that, like, as I've released music, when you release your first song, it's all very new. And, like, as you release more songs, you figure out what works for you and what makes it more of an enjoyable experience. Because, I love writing songs and stuff. And the last thing I want is to hate the release process and it kind of take my love for it away, So, um, yeah, it's been really fun. I've, I've had a great time.
That's great. The first thing I always like to start off with asking is where your music journey kind of all kicked off.
Yeah. Um, so I've kind of been surrounded by music my whole life, I guess. My mum's side of my family are very, very musical. My grandma's a cello teacher, and my granddad is like a violinist, and he he used to play in a band called Vandergraaf Generator. So he like used to play at the festivals in England and stuff. But I really started playing music with my grandma. She's a she's a cello teacher, and I started cello lessons when I was around 6 years old. Um, and yeah, I don't know. That's really what I think. My older brother got like started lessons and got a cello, and I kind of the competitive younger brother that I was, I kind of wanted to, you know, feel involved as well. And then yeah, I loved it. And since then, I guess music's been a big part of my life. Although I don't play really the cello as much anymore. Um, I still think that sort of developmental process, learning music in that way really does affect the way I write songs and stuff like that. My grandma still, to this day, is one of the main reasons why I think I do music, and she's very supportive and lovely.
So at what point in I'm a little jealous because I always wanted to play the cello. So I'm
It's
yeah,
a
like I
great
said, I'm
instrument.
jealous.
It's a
It's
great,
that's the one thing I was like I went and I did the little like try out try it out thing in like
yeah,
orchestra when it was like you're going into like fifth or sixth grade or whatever, and it's like, oh, what instrument do you want to play in like band or orchestra? I
yeah.
tried it. I went home and I was like, I'm gonna do it. And my mom's like, didn't you want to take piano lessons? And I was like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. So then I did piano instead. But there's part of me that's always like, what would have been if I would have gone and done the cello instead? So, but that is
Oh,
cool.
it's never too late to start, I guess.
No, no, I just ah, it's I don't like the lack of like knowing really where the notes are. Like it's just
Yeah,
how people know where anything is on there is beyond me. I struggle enough having a fretboard on the guitar. So,
yeah. I know what you mean. The
so
piano is nice because I mean I think the piano is also like a very visual way of learning music, right? You can really see the gaps between the notes, and and like it was I when I started writing songs, I started kind of learning the piano along with that, and yeah, because of that, it was I did find it a lot. Well, writing the songs with the cello would have been definitely a lot writing with the piano.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. The one thing the piano has on almost every other instrument is that like the whole multiple notes thing, like you can play as many as you want at a time.
yeah,
Where there's
definitely.
like a lot of limitation and a lot of other things. So it's like that's like foundation. Like if you want to figure out how music works, st- piano. Like
Yeah,
that's the
so,
answer. That's just how it
for
goes.
sure.
So
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I taught myself the piano when I was like, I think I must have been around 13. Um, Kind of the basics. Just I was just playing like block chords in a rhythm whilst I was writing songs, and yeah, some of those songs. Well, most of those songs probably won't see the light of day, but because they're quite funny. But yeah, I don't know. And then now I kind of mostly write with the guitar because I'm traveling quite a bit. It's a lot easier to bring a guitar around with me. Although sometimes I find pianos and I enjoy it, but yeah, guitar the guitar is definitely a lot of fun for me at the moment. Yeah.
so at what point did you start like writing music? Like how did that kind of start becoming a thing? Where did it go from being a musician to being a songwriter?
Yeah, I can't like pinpoint the exact time. I don't think I there's like a number of different things that happened. I think firstly, like I played the cello. I was at my school on a scholarship for playing the cello, but I didn't really get on well with the whole academic side of like the music department at my school, but I had to keep my scholarship. So it's because of that that I kind of had the idea of sort of switching on to more modern side of music, learning the piano and stuff like that in order to kind of stay at my school. I also loved writing poetry. Like when I was a kid, it was my favorite thing to do. Like whenever in English class I had a poetry assignment, it was just I enjoyed it so like a lot, and I was relatively good at it. That kind of finding a way to do music, and that was well, songwriting is basically that, right? You write the music, you write the words, in whatever order they come. I don't know, and then also I think the first song I ever properly wrote was there was this older student at my school who was a songwriter, and I think he had a he had a concert at the school, and then I felt quite inspired from that, and I went home and tried writing a song after that, and then since then it's been what I wanted to do. So yeah, lots of little things coming together, but um, I'm so glad they did because I can't really imagine my life having any other sort of purpose other than writing songs.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's just it just happens. Like it just sometimes
Yeah,
it's like, oh, you're like you're trying to write, and then it's like it's just not happening, and then it happens. It's like just
yeah,
it just kind of is one of those weird experiences that just kind of comes about, and then you're like, well, this is cool. Like creating music
mm,
is like nothing else. Like I'm just gonna keep writing the things.
exactly. And I think also like a big turning point in me was when I started. Because when I started writing songs, I was kind of 13, 14. So the subject matter for my songs was maybe more what I thought songs should be about, like love songs, stuff like that, considering I was quite young and I'd never really been in a relationship and stuff like that. So as soon as I started kind of writing about personal experience, um, my songs got a lot sadder because of that, because I was writing about, issues I faced growing up, kind of like, yeah, from like left over from my parents' divorce, like that. It's kind of some stuff was quite hard hitting, a lot of focus on sort of mental health, and you know, when you're 15, 16, everything is very raw and stuff like that. So I think as soon as I started writing about stuff that was real to me, my songs were completely on a different level. And the song that I'm releasing now, it's taken so long to record them, but they're actually, yeah, on my upcoming EP and my recent single, Childhood Photographs. I wrote that when I was 15, and it's still to this day speaks to me. I'm very proud of it, and I still think it's a great song. And I think it's because it's so real.
It always baffles me when people are like, I wrote a song like 8, 10 years ago, however long, like years and years, like been sitting on it, like early stages writing. And they're like, and I'm working on putting it out. I'm like, if you
Yeah,
told me that I was releasing something that 16-year-old me wrote, I would say that I haven't written a song since 16-year-old me. Like that just like
yeah,
the stuff that I wrote when I was like starting out was so rough and so
yeah.
just cringy in its own way. And granted, like,
Mm,
looking back on anything is like, really? Like that's what I thought was good. That's
yeah.
what happens when you grow. But like it's always really cool because like I had somebody on here that was like, oh, I'm like releasing like a whole album of songs that I wrote when I was like 10 years younger. And it's like
Yeah.
cool. Like that's really cool to like still be able to look at that and be like, I think this is good. I think this is worth investing time into to put out. Like,
Mhm.
have you done any sort of revisions or changes? Like, has the song evolved at all over time, or is it still pretty much in its raw 15-year-old form?
I think out of all of the songs in the EP, Childhood Photographs is the one that has stayed the most in it as like its most original form. The only thing that's really changed is we like embellished the string arrangements, but on it it was it. I think we wanted to keep the song in this song in particular really simple. Um, I mean, when I wrote it, I hadn't ever really played the guitar before. Um, I moved in with my grandparents for various reasons, which kind of inspired the song. Um, and my granddad, he bought me a guitar as a sort of welcome present. And I'd never played before, but if you listen to the song, it actually only uses two strings on the guitar, and then my hand kind of just moves up and down playing the chords. It's super simple. Um, and then I wrote the cello part for it as well. And then when we were recording it in the studio, we added the piano part, and the cello part was kind of arranged to have violins and violas as well. So it's still very, very close to it. The only real big change is my voice. I actually found recording, the first recording of Childhood Photographs from 2015, 2015 or 2016. I can't really remember. And it sounds like a completely different person. My voice is completely changed, partly because I was growing up, and also because I started working when I was 17 with this great vocal coach in Mexico, who really helped me sort of settle on my voice and sing with better technique. To not necessarily, my voice hasn't changed that much, but I just I put a lot less strain on it. And I'm not a 15-year-old with my voice breaking, basically.
That'll happen as time will go on.
Yeah, yeah. And so, like, the reason why it took so long is because of that. I'd record in Mexico whenever I went to visit my family there, and I'd come back and my voice would have completely changed, or just because of playing the songs live. When you live with the songs, they kind of just the little things like the tempo, the little phrasings you use kind of change as well. So I think Childhood Photographs, we recorded it twice. I think the first time we recorded it, and then I'm not sure if I was totally happy with it. So it's taken a good 7, 8 years for this EP to be done. I mean, maybe 5 years for it to be recorded, and then it's taken around 2 years to wait for it to be released. I would have loved to have released it ages ago, but I'm releasing it now, and I'm just happy that these songs are finally going to be out there.
Yeah. I mean, it's always like a whether it was like you plan on it being by this time or you just like want it to be done just because you want it to be done, there's always
Yeah,
some sort of hiccup in the road that just kind of delays things just a little bit. That's just how the creative world of
yeah,
things works, is what I've learned. Is it's like
exactly.
whatever your target date is, be willing to give like another month or so on the buffer on that, because then like
Yeah,
that's just something's gonna come up
definitely.
at some point. And
Something's
if
going to come up, and
yeah,
you've got to just, you've also just got to, like, yeah, you've got to be prepared for it to throw you off guard. I think it's the whole creative process is really unpredictable, right? Timing wise, and just with what the end product and ends up sounding like. There's so many times where I sit down at my computer and I have this idea of exactly what I want a song to sound like, and by the time I've finished producing it, it sounds completely different. But that doesn't mean it's any worse. It's just completely different to how I imagined it. But I guess that's kind of the magic of writing songs. And I do definitely think that songs and ideas are their own sort of their own force of nature, and um, I'm a lot less in control of what the song is going to sound like than I'd like to think.
yeah. I'm a big believer of the like idea that like whatever you write, or you can only write something at that said time that you like start to write it or
Yeah,
whatever. So like, the ideas that you don't write down, or the voice memos you don't hit record for, and like things like that. It's like
yeah,
those were a thing for that moment. But if you try to go back and try to recreate it and you can't, like that's just opportunity missed. But like it's just like those things existed in that moment. And then if you just it's just a matter of how many of those and which ones you end up capturing and actually like turning into something. Because like there are going to be plenty of things that you write or even just start, like ideas that just kind of happen, and then that's the start and end of their existence, and that just is kind of how it
yeah,
goes. You just
for
luck of the
sure.
draw which ones stick.
Yeah, exactly. Um, lots of artists who I admire kind of speak about that sort of the creative process in that sort of way. I think it's Chris Martin from Coldplay who talks about like people as sort of being antennas, receiving these frequencies, which are these ideas that then end up being songs, right? And then I also did I did this self-help book, which was really amazing. You might have heard of it. It's called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron.
I have heard of
And
it.
in there she talks about it more as in, yeah, kind of like dipping your bucket in a, I can't remember, in a river, and like bringing out, no, filling your well full of life experiences, and then out of that um comes creativity. And it's I definitely resonate with that. I think um the times when I've been busiest and doing the most things is when I've had the most ideas. And then, for example, a couple of years ago, I moved out to live with my dad in Mexico, and I was living with him. He lives outside of the city in this beautiful place, and I kind of just spent a couple of months doing absolutely nothing, and I was like, I'm in the perfect place to write songs, but no real solid good ideas came. And then as soon as I'm kind of working in a bar, slaving away, working late nights, suddenly all of these great ideas come along. So it's you can't predict also how when these ideas come along, and you've got to be ready to nip off to the toilet to record a voice note, um just to kind of capture those moments. But like I've listened to I have like thousands of voice notes, and I'm really bad at labeling them like that. So, and some of them I don't even know what melody I was thinking. They're so incoherent. I must have recorded them in a rush, and it just sounds like a cat being strangled. Honestly, it's like, yeah, it's I don't know. But then sometimes I stumble across an old voice note, and it's the bit of melody that I've been waiting for to complete a song. So yeah, it's great the way that works as well.
Yeah. The biggest issue I have is like anything I note down, unless it's
Mm.
within like a 48-hour period, I will never touch it again. And it'll
Oh,
just
really?
like exist in the drafts. It'll just sit there.
Yeah,
Like I don't do as much with voice notes as much as I do like just like writing lyrics down, because that's usually like if I write it down that way, I'll be able to remember how it sounded, or I'll come up with
yeah.
something better. If because if I don't remember, then it probably wasn't that good to begin with.
Mm.
But the voice notes thing is like if I did it, I have to write down what the chords are, what the notes are, whatever, because otherwise I'm gonna lose track of it. That's more of like a little piano thing for me, but I'm not, my ear is not strong enough to figure it out for myself. So
Yeah,
those
I've
just kind of
definitely had,
sit. Yeah.
even with songs that I've completely written and I come back to years later, you forget how to play them. You have to relearn. And I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Like, especially because I also learn a lot by ear rather than by reading music. So um, sometimes I have to sit for like an hour figuring out what the hell it was that I was playing in a song that I wrote 5 years ago. Um, which I'm gonna have to do. Well, which I've had to do preparing to like play all of these songs live, because they are songs that I wrote 6, 7 years ago, and yeah, I've had to relearn a couple of them for sure.
Yeah, it happens sometimes. What do you find most often inspires a lot of your writing?
I think it's for this EP, it's definitely personal experience. It's mostly negative personal experience in this EP, but there is one love song in the middle of it, um, kind of shining through all of this dark kind of adolescent trauma that I went through. Trauma being kind of a relative word, right? But like a lot of all of these songs are definitely personal experience, and I kind of started writing songs really as a way of making sense of things I was going through, the world around me, as a kind of form of self therapy. Um, so yeah, that's really, I draw inspiration from things going on in my life, good or bad. This record was a lot of, not negative, but a lot of, difficult, like formative experiences. Um, and now I have like so many love songs and stuff like that, and different kinds of songs. Still lots of hard hitting songs in the pipeline that I'm sure, well, hopefully I won't have to wait 7 years to release those as well. But who knows? Like you said, it's unpredictable.
Yeah. I have found personally that like I'm very much in the negative experience writing realm of things just in general.
Yeah,
And I always write things that are like just that are slower. The only things that I write that tend to have like a happier tone on them are the love songs. Like everything
yeah,
else is just like unfortunate circumstances or just like not so happy of times, or a thought that just
mm,
kind of sits, and those kinds of things. But the happy ones, those are the nice little love songs.
yeah. And I think what it is I just love sad music. I don't know why.
Hmm.
I've always enjoyed listening to sad
Just
songs,
hits different.
and someone's got to write the sad songs,
Right.
Someone's like, I'd love to write these upbeat dancey songs, and maybe I will, and I do have some that are a bit more upbeat. But it's funny, even when I'm writing love songs, I manage to make them kind of sad and melancholic, and so it's I guess that's kind of the way I enjoy writing songs.
Yeah, I get
Kind of
it. Yeah.
find the sadness in a lot of happy things. I don't know, not the sadness, but I like there's a lot of things that I don't know, because life is like that. As you're not happy all the time, even if you're in a great situation. There's sad things going on in your life, and I definitely find it. Well, I write songs to help me through those situations, and then I'd love. Now I'm at the stage where I'd like to make a career out of it, which is an interesting thing, sharing all of these personal experiences with so many people. But yeah,
Yeah.
I wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah. No, it's there's just something different about sad music. Like you're talking to the girl who doesn't often break 100 BPM. Like I'm chill, slow. Like my default
Yeah,
Logic template is set to like 85, like slow and somewhat sad. It's just that's just the way. Like it's just it hits different. Like you can have fun with a upbeat song or something that's not like sad, but it's like at the same time it's like what's going to resonate with you? Not the song
exactly.
that's talking about like let's go party. It's gonna be the song that's like here's why this sucks.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I meant when I said that when I was first started writing songs, I was kind of writing about what I thought I should be writing about.
Mm-hmm.
But the songs they weren't rubbish. They were necessary, right? Um, for me to kind of get into it. But as soon as I started writing about personal experiences and not trying to write, these upbeat songs that were kind of fake, and I was writing stuff more true to myself, it was yeah, that's when I really found my love for it, and it kind of I started improving.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the fun stuff. That's
Yeah.
um yeah, that's cool. If you had to create a new genre around your style of music, what would it be called?
Ah, you see, this is the hardest question ever, because I really struggle to kind of pinpoint exactly what genre I am, because I'm influenced by so many different types of music. I've always listened to absolutely everything, um, and I think in many ways everything I listen to finds its way into my style of music in some ways. Right? It's like, even if it's you know I listen to a lot of indie rock, and I don't think my music sounds anything like indie rock, but it's definitely influenced in some ways by that. Maybe not so much this EP. So I'll stick to talking about this EP. It's kind of singer songwriter, um, folky, soul, alternative pop, if that's even a genre. It's just a bit of everything. It's alternative. The thing is, it's got the structures and but I wouldn't say it was pop. I think it's like kind of childhood photographs is alternative folk, I think. Um, but yeah, it's kind of its own sound, I think. Yeah. Sorry, I don't have a more um, specific answer. This is the question that always stumps me when I'm filling out playlist applications and stuff like that. I guess I don't really think about what genre I'm writing, um, but I also write in a lot of different genres, which is something which I'm trying to figure out at the moment, where to take my music after this EP, because I have so many songs, and some of them are a completely different sound, and it's whether I start a different project for that sound, or I kind of try and find a way of integrating it into what I'm doing right now under my name.
Yeah. I think I've said this before, but the way that we consume music has made it so much harder to fit yourself into a box because
Yeah,
you could listen to anything under the sun in 5 seconds. In the next 5 seconds, you could pull up any kind of song by like it's the internet has made everything so accessible that we can consume all of it so easily. So then it's like we're influenced by all of it so easily. And then it's like, well, I listened to like 50 different people today. The next thing I'm going to
yeah,
write is going to be some culmination of these 50 different people. Whereas before it was like, you listen to albums and they're as a whole, whether it's vinyl, whether
yeah,
it's CDs, like it's like we used to consume just like if you like this, that's what you're purchasing and that's what you're running with. But now it's like, well, maybe I feel like this, but 30 minutes
yeah,
later, maybe I want to completely change it on its head. And so it's now like you can have 6 different genres that you could somehow fit underneath. And that makes
yeah,
it all the more complicated to
yeah,
try and be like, well, I sound like this, but also that, and maybe a little bit of
yeah.
this as well.
Well,
So,
even within my EP, some of the songs are definitely more influenced by, let's say, well, when I was 15, I was probably listening. Well, when I grew up, I listened to a lot. Coldplay was always in the car, but I just, you know, I'm pretty sure I had 3 CDs in the car for road trips when I was growing up, and they were probably a Coldplay CD, Aretha Franklin, and then I think Eminem. So it's kind of even then, it's such a big mix. Definitely don't think I don't think you'll find any Eminem influences on this EP. But I mean, um, yeah, maybe I'll add a bonus track of me rapping. No one wants to hear that.
yeah, no, Eminem's just, there was a new song of his that like came out the other day and it was like on some playlist I was listening to because it was new. And I was like, I forgot about him because I don't feel like he's
Yeah,
not like he's like bad now or anything, but he's just not been relevant for a little while. I feel like he's just not been doing much.
yeah, I haven't really heard much. I listened to much of his music recently, to be honest, as
Just the
well.
CD.
Um, just that one CD, I'm pretty sure it was like the recover. Is it called Recovery? The album? I don't know. Because I also, I didn't have full say over what we listened to. I was the youngest of 3 brothers, so
Mm.
so I was the last person to call the shots when it came to what music we had in the car. But Aretha Franklin, wonderful.
Hmm.
Coldplay was great as well, and so was Eminem. And then I also listened to a lot of classical music growing up. So I used to go to concerts with my grandparents, and kind of I stopped for listening to the classical music for a while, but I've started really enjoying it again. Um, Partly because I very sadly lost my granddad a month or so ago, a month and a half ago, I think it is now. And just going through like lots of the music that he used to listen to when we were choosing songs for his funeral, I really, really fell back in love with um, that music and rediscovered kind of the love that I have for it. Because I just think it's just crazy um, how classical music can really tell a story. Unless it's an opera, for example, but you haven't got any lyrics, but it just really it tells a story. It pulls on your heartstrings just through the harmonies and melodies, and it's just magical. I think.
Yeah, it it really is just like a one of a kind type of music. And I know that it's like kind of like the oldest kind of music, if not the oldest kind
Yeah,
of music. I'm not very well versed in how things have been for hundreds of years. I know
yeah,
pop's not been around forever, but
yeah,
yeah, there. I mean, classical is in its own way kind of inspired everything that's kind of come since, some more than others, but it's like that was low key like the foundation of it all.
yeah,
And so, and I mean, it also just kind of like it's an interesting perspective on like songwriting because it's like that's you're not there's no words like that's going to inspire it
No,
in its own kind of unique way.
yeah, no, it's honestly like I listen to some some of these concertos and stuff like that, and I'm like, how the hell did they come up with it? It's just it's crazy,
It is
very
crazy.
very amazing. And I think also, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but mu well, with not necessarily with all music, but pop now is a lot more simple, and people's attention spans have definitely got a lot shorter than they used to be. Um, so that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's you now yeah, classical music has a lot more space to tell all these different. Maybe that's why they can tell these stories without having lyrics. It finds they have a lot more time. Um,
Hmm.
and I mean, I write songs. Most of my songs are near 4 minutes, but also even now that's kind of long for a song. Not that there should be any rules, really. I don't think that I'm gonna force myself to write a 2 minute long song anytime soon. Um, I definitely have some songs that I've written that are shorter, but um, but yeah, I I enjoy writing songs the length I write them. And it's I find it gives me enough space to say what I want to say in in the way I want to say it.
It's hard to write a short song if it's slow because you have to like it just automatically kind of
That,
takes a little bit longer. You have to get all the words out.
exactly. I've sometimes been writing a song and I'm like, oh, I've got like a verse and chorus, and then I record a little voice note. I'm like, I'm at like 1 minute 40 already. Like, how am I gonna? How am I gonna in 20 seconds wrap this up?
Yeah.
Um, but also that I also think it's good not to try and that again would kind of be writing songs for um writing what I think I should write rather than writing what I'm gonna like write. And I think it's important for me to kind of stay writing stuff that I'm interested in writing and stuff that kind of flows out of me naturally. And if I naturally write a 2.5 minute long song, which I have, not so much on this. Actually, stick around is quite short, but and yeah, then if it comes naturally, then it's fine as long as I'm not forcing it.
Yeah. It's just gotta let it be what it's gonna be. That's all there
Exactly.
is to it. Um, is there a song that you've written that you think best embodies who you are as an artist? Your one song sample, for instance, like the one you'd show somebody to be like, if you like this, you'll like the rest. If you're a fan of this one, you should be just a straight up
Mm.
fan.
I think so. I had on this EP, I'd say it was Troubled Photographs, but from my other, I have like 70 other songs that um I have as demos and stuff that I show people, and there are definitely a couple of on there that are my go-tos. But from this project, Childhood Photographs, because we kept it so raw when I recorded it, it's kind of me in its essence, right? It's got a big focus on the lyrics. I think the music's quite beautiful. And whilst there is kind of a variation in songs that I write, it maybe is kind of me in sort of my most raw form.
Yeah. That's always uh almost like a not a difficult question to answer, but it kind of goes back to the whole thing we were talking about earlier with like you said, like within the EP itself, there's like songs that kind of one leans more like they lean into different areas of things, and so um
Yeah,
it's tricky to kind of pin one down at times. But um so do you think that that also is like a forecast of where your music is heading beyond what's current or what's like currently in the works or on its way?
Yeah, I think I'm still trying to figure out exactly how to group lots of these songs that I'm going to be releasing. I think definitely Childhood Photographs. I have a lot of guitar-based songs kind of that I'm working on that are kind of folky. So definitely, yeah. Um, but then also I have maybe some more produced stuff on the way as well. Although that will maybe take a bit longer because I need to um it will just take a bit longer to get ready in the studio. So I think after Childhood Folk, after this EP, I plan on working on another EP, which I'm kind of already mostly done with. That will be kind of yeah, very chilled, folky, guitar-based songs. Lots of them kind of. I feel like they'd make quite good road trip songs. Lots of the music I write is quite cinematic as well. Would like sound good in a TV show or if so. Uh, yeah, I guess under a broad umbrella term with quite a lot of variation also in between different songs. I think Childhood Photographs is a good song to go off of.
When grouping them, and I've always kind of like I feel like everybody kind of has a different perspective on this. When you're trying to put together like a project, whether that is like you have an idea and you're filling gaps, or you have songs and you're trying to kind of piece them together, do you think about it more so from like a content perspective of like what the songs are about and kind of the subject matter, or is it more so kind of from the perspective of these kind of all fit the same bill, like sound wise, like the music kind of all vibes together? Is it a mix of the two? Like, what kind of goes into putting together a project like that in your mind?
I think it's kind of a bit of both, right? It, it would feel wrong to have the subject matter be completely different. Um, and if the subject matter is similar, when you're then producing it, you can kind of make an effort to put some things in that kind of draw the sound all together. Um, I think it's something that I don't tend to really think about while I'm doing it, but then it kind of ends up working. The only reason why I've kind of been going back and forth with all of these songs is because it's taken so long to release this EP. I've had all of this back catalogue of songs, which I'm like, oh, what should I do with them? And that's like years and years of songwriting. So different versions of me, if you will. So like some of the songs definitely go together and have a similar subject matter, and then um, some of them on another project would work as well. Um, and then also um, it's kind of I've been thinking about kind of being a songwriter as well as an artist and not just collaborating, but not giving people, but like other people singing songs that I've written because I have so many. Um, and I think there's definitely some songs that I've written that maybe I resonate with less that I wouldn't mind other people singing, and then other songs that I'm like, I've got to release this under my name. It's got to be my song.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are some that just kind of hit close to home in a way that are just like, this is just like it's mine, and there's no question about it being anybody else's. Like it's just
Yeah,
it's a little part of me, and so it's got to have that tagline on it as well.
exactly. Yeah, it would feel wrong it not with some of the songs would not be my songs. Like this whole EP is so personal that they are it's just kind of me embodied in songs and my life experiences, and yeah, the songs are very dear to my heart.
If you had to pick two or three artists that you think your music is like a combination of, who's on the list?
Mm. See, I go for like a sort of kind of definitely elements of Coldplay in the earlier Coldplay. Um, their style's changed a bit now, but kind of what I was listening to when I was growing up. Then you got your singer-songwriter influences, your classic people like Ed Sheeran, Tom Odell, maybe. Um, oh, I've given you four now. Well, I've given you three. I also think James Blake is someone who I'm super inspired by. I think he's the first proper concert I went to was watching him in Bristol at the O2 Academy, and I was so blown away. And whilst a lot of my songs don't really have a, he's a lot more experimental. I think definitely there is definitely some influence there, particularly in on the EP and songs such as Pick Up the Pieces. Pick Up the Pieces is a lot more influenced by that sort of more experimental side to the music that I listen to. And yeah, I think those are the people who definitely who inspire me.
Do you ever find that when you have like whether it's one of those or somebody else that's like new and interests you that you like if you consume more of someone in specifics catalog, like if it's like, oh, I'm really in like a Tom Odell mood and that's just like the vibe for a few days, do you find that like
Yeah,
stuff that you write around that time is more sounding of that nature than maybe some of the other influences?
I think they definitely like what you're listening to definitely finds its way into your songwriting. But then I also do think that I have my own sound that kind of overrides all of that, and it ends up. But I can definitely hear listening back to some of the songs on this EP. I can tell exactly who I was listening to at the time, who was like my main influences for the songs. For Pick Up the Pieces, I'd say definitely James Blake influencing it. For Ocean, definitely Coldplay influenced. But then also kind of all under kind of my own sound as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I've been doing this thing where I take a question from last week's artist for this week's artist. And so the question from last week's artist is, what is a song that you wish you had written?
Oh my God. You know what? I always know the answer to this question, but it's completely gone from my mind now. What's a song that I wish I had written? Ah, yeah, I think Famous Blue Raincoat by Leonard Cohen. I think that's just an amazing song. Just brilliant. Um, Also, I listen to it a lot with my dad on road trips, so I just think it's great. Uh, yeah, I'm not related to Leonard Cohen, even though I have the same surname, but I definitely think he was a amazing songwriter, poet, um, and yeah, that's definitely one of my favorite songs.
You can pull anything from the list of things that he's written and like that's up there. Um
Yeah,
he's just one of those that's like it's like even a miss
mad.
is like gonna be just unreal.
Yeah, it's just it's funny because also like I didn't listen to him for a while because it's music that my dad listened to and he would try to get me to listen to it. I was like I'm teenager like nah dad, like I don't want to listen to your music. I want to put my music on in the car. But as soon as I properly listened, I was kind of pulled in by how amazing his songwriting is.
Yeah. Definitely someone to take notes from for sure.
For sure, for sure, for sure. And I also think he also like I like how you know in his songs, the poetry is super important, and lyrics, which is something which I like to focus on in my songwriting as well.
Yeah. What is your question for the next artist?
Uh, um, maybe what advice would they have if they were to like time travel back 5 years, um, about kind of like music? What advice they would have for their younger self?
Like, what would you do? What would you say to yourself in the OG days of making music? It's
Yeah,
a good
just as you're
question.
starting out. Yeah.
How much time do you got? I
How
got a
much
lot
time
of
have I
things
got?
I
Oh,
would
it's so
say.
so far. Well, I mean, for me, I think um there is a lot I would say, because I mean, when I started recording this EP, I was quite young and quite inexperienced, and I think part of the reason why it did take a while is because at the start I was I wasn't as willing to maybe like fight my corner, and I kind of didn't push my ideas forward as much as I could, which kind of led to me feeling a little dissatisfied with some of the earlier versions of the songs. Um, but then as I grew up and became more used to the process, I really really made sure that the songs that I was happy with the songs that ended up um, exactly how I wanted them. I also think I'm answering my own question now, sorry, but I think that another thing would be to focus less on perfection. And I think it's very easy to try and make things perfect. Um, but I think that gets in the way of creating as well, because um because you can get stuck and trapped on songs trying to make them perfect when they don't need to be. I think my girlfriend found this quote which helped me a lot. um I'm not sure who the quote's from, but it's something like, now you now you can stop now you've stopped being perfect, you can be good. um Not now you've stopped trying to be perfect, you can be good, which I think is very true. um Gets in the Trying to be perfect does get in the way, and yeah, that's the main bit of advice I give my younger self.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. I think that I mean it's true. Like it's always the thing, it's like done is better than perfect, because it's like there's no such thing as perfect, but like there really isn't. Like you can it's
Yeah,
that's the thing that like frustrates me, but is also like really cool about music, is that it's so subjective that like you could change like 100 different things in it from where it kind of where a song stands like right now. You know, one that you
yeah,
think that you've been sitting on that you're like, I think this is done, but like I could do more of this, or like I could add another part here, or the vocal could be a little different in this one spot. But it's like at some point you're just gonna have to call it done. Otherwise, it's never gonna see the light of day, and you're just gonna have this song that's like really good, like sitting on your computer and like
yeah,
waiting to like be heard by people. And then it's just like, well, there were a few tweaks that I was still like thinking about making that I think would make it like perfect, but
yeah.
just like
And
pull
it
the
really ends
trigger
up
at some
coming down
point,
to
do the
just
things.
tweaks, right? It ends up coming down to, the further along in the process you get, the smaller the changes you're making are. And
Yes.
really, you've just got to learn when the moment is to let go. I think also, like, I think it's with all creative processes. Like, I can imagine, I'm not a painter, but I can imagine when someone's painting it, like, how do you decide what your last stroke of
Right.
on a canvas is going to be? It'd be so easy to be like to go back to tweak things, but um, really, no one, not no one's going to know. But you got to just know when to kind of to stop producing a song, to just let it out and live its life. And I think I'm definitely I definitely think these songs have kind of been on a private link on my computer for too long. Um, and it's definitely time to kind of let them out there. That's partly why the EP is called Overgrown. It's um it's kind of a double entendre. On one hand, I think because of lots of my childhood experiences, you know, growing up kind of with in a pretty broken home, moving around a lot between Mexico and England, and having to try and be the adult in some situations that I myself am kind of a bit overgrown, or I was when I was writing those songs. And then on the other hand, I think the songs also themselves, you know, they're overgrown. They they've they haven't been out for way too long when they should have been. Maybe, I mean, like you said, you've got the creative process. You can't predict it. But I think definitely now you know, they're kind of a bit pot bound in my pocket, and they need to just be planted uh, and let their roots spread in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, I I don't have anything to say to that. I'm not gonna talk like that was really like I like the way that you said that. I'm not gonna say anything back
Thank
to that.
you.
I'm not gonna add anything to that that's gonna be any better. So I'm gonna let that answer be what it is. Um, what is it that you think sets you apart from other independent artists?
uh, I don't know. I think I think there's space for absolutely everyone to to write songs, right? And what sets me apart is my I don't know, it's the songs I write, the things I write about. That doesn't mean you shouldn't listen to anyone else. Um, I think I think yeah, like that sets me apart. I'm not sure. I think the stories I tell are um, very deep, meaningful, and I think um, people can get a lot from listening to my songs. I mean, they helped me a lot through difficult things, and I can only really hope that in their own way, people will attach them to their own life experiences and that they can help them through difficult things as well.
I love that it like I get different versions of that answer a lot, but it kind of always just comes back to the same theme of I basically like just want the music to do things for other people. And you like I hope people find things in my
Yeah,
music that I found in music either growing up or still
yeah,
find in the music that inspires you. It's like it's always just it comes down to this like full circle moment of like, well, music did XYZ for me. All I'm trying to do with it is help
yeah.
it do XYZ for somebody else. And
I think that's one of the like most special parts of about writing songs is that you know I can say all like I can tell the stories behind these songs, but at the end of the day, everyone is gonna kind of attribute them to their own different life experiences. Even me, because because it's taken so long to release these songs, like I've had to a number of times kind of reconnect with some of these songs because I'm in a completely different place now to where I was when I first wrote them. Um, you know, maybe the original meaning at some stage doesn't resonate with me as much, but I still have things going on in my life that the lyrics are relevant to. And it's the same with everyone. They'll find their own relevance for the lyrics of this and the songs, I think.
yeah. In responding to your answer, I honestly like halfway through when I was speaking, I was like, I think I like forgot which question I asked you because you kind of already answered this next one as well in this, but
Okay,
I'll ask it again and just we'll circle around it again.
we'll
Um,
summarize.
what impact do you want to have with your music and with your artistry?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess I just, yeah, want it.
Kind of got there already, but
Yeah. Uh, I want people to enjoy the songs and yeah, and then if it helps them, if the lyrics mean something to them, and um, yeah, if I end up being lucky enough to be the soundtrack to some people's lives, then that's just a bonus.
yeah, yeah. I think like it's you can always tell whether it's some people are able to articulate better than others what specifically it is that they're like on a mission to do with the music, and some people
Yeah.
probably like there's always some sort of motivation, desire, whatever you want to call it, under the surface. And
Hmm.
some people it's like clear as day, like what in their words, and some other people it's like maybe you don't quite hear it with what they're saying, but you it's like the vibe is entirely there. Like I feel like everything that you've said has been kind of from this place of like I want people to feel things and have a like whether it's like relate to something unfortunate or like whatever the case may be, like there's an impact that's like tucked in
Mm.
there whether we're talking about it or not, and that's what we're trying to do here with the music. And that's
Yeah.
what's always really cool is like you can always tell where the root of it is for people
Yeah.
that are creating it. It's like it's you can see the heart of it.
Yeah. I think definitely that's kind of, yeah. I don't have an exact goal that I want people to feel this, that, and to take this message away from the songs. I actually think it's nicer people to know what the songs are about, but yeah, to to relate them to their own lives. And I think there's a lot of relatable stuff in this EP that can be taken under any context. It's like Ocean, for example. I think lots of people thought it was a love song when I first released it, and it's about something completely different to me. But if you want it to be a love song for you, enjoy it in that way. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, that's what's always cool is like there's like websites that exist that are like about different song meanings and stuff, and people will have 100 different ways that they can take a set of lyrics, like 3 minutes long, and people are interpreting it 100 different ways. It just is because
yeah,
because it's filtered through that person's like individual experience, and they're taking
mhm,
it with like the lived experience that they have. And two, it's just
yeah,
like you could listen to it one day and think one thing, and you could listen to it another day and think more into it. And there are songs that I've listened to 100 times that it's like the 101st time that I listen to it is when it actually clicks on what it's really about.
yeah, for
But
sure.
that's what's really cool is it's like whether I intended for you to take it in this way that you're taking it, you're still relating to it, which is like this whole
Yeah,
added level of cool and just
yeah,
this extra layer of like music really is just on another level.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's all art is so open to interpretation, right? You know, um, that's why it doesn't bother me too much when if someone doesn't like my music, but I don't take it personally because it's subjective. It's art, It's like it's not for everyone, but but there are people out there who will listen to it and resonate with it and love it, and that's kind of um maybe another reason why I do what I do. I do it firstly because I love it. Secondly, because you know I just want, yeah, I want people to enjoy the songs that I write and yeah,
Yeah.
form a connection with them.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, your heart has to be in it, but there has to be also an added layer of something else there to really
Yeah,
make it go.
yeah. And then kind of a lot of um I've had to I've had to really make sure that I'm not complacent, and because there is a lot of hard work that goes into it as well, and it can be kind of frustrating at times. It's a tricky industry, and but as long as you that's like as long as you kind of stay true to what you're doing and what you're doing it, and part of that comes with making sure that you like I try to make sure that I'm writing songs that are close to my heart, then it kind of is easier to stay on track and to stay motivated.
Yeah. I think that brings us to the final question, which is also the concept behind the podcast, which is why music?
Ah, it's a good question. Because I just couldn't imagine doing anything else. And because music's been such a big part of my life since I was a kid, learning the cello with my grandma, um, starting to write songs. You know, I don't think I'd be the person I am today without having started writing songs because it helped me so much through these difficult experiences. Um, and and if I try to kind of imagine a life where I'm not making music, it doesn't seem viable. It doesn't seem possible. You know, I'll always be creating in some at some sort of level. Um, and I just love music. That's why music.
I mean, as simple as it is, that just I love it. Why wouldn't I do it? It's like that's all there is to it. Like we wouldn't put in the time and the hours and the effort and potentially the money and all these other things to have it potentially just kind of fall flat on its face. Like to put like, you never know what's going to happen when you release a song. You never know what's going to happen to the hours and hours you
Yeah,
put into something. It's like we wouldn't put ourselves through that if it wasn't like this deep burning passion and just drive and just
yeah,
like
and love
if it
for it.
wasn't just the whole deal, like if that wasn't
Yeah,
everything, it wouldn't be anything.
yeah, I completely agree. I think it's just I make music because it's what I love doing. It's like with anything, right? If you with any career, you know, if you um I mean, I'm lucky that I'm pursuing something that I love doing. I know lots of people maybe don't like their jobs as much and stuff like that. And but like I I couldn't imagine doing anything else. Whether it gives me troubles because it's a difficult industry and it's a risk, right? But it's a risk worth taking. Um, and for me, life would kind of have less meaning if I wasn't doing something I loved through music, something creative as well. I think um, like music is a great creative outlet, and maybe I'll explore other creative outlets later in my life. But right now, definitely, music is what I love.
Yeah. No, I think yeah, the words like went into my head and were like, this was so well said. And then it's like, now I'm like, I can't remember the exact wording that you just had, but whatever you just said was perfect. Um, yeah, like that's just to be able to do it and like yeah, it's just it's
Yeah,
special. That's all there is to it.
it
It's
is.
special.
It is special. Yeah. Oh, I think it's just life needs a soundtrack, right? In my opinion,
Yes.
and music is so important, and it always has been. Um, as far back in history as you look, you know, there's been people making music, there's been artists. I think it's some creating is something very human. Um, some our creative side is maybe, you know, one of our biggest evolutionary, gains. I think the fact that we, make all this beautiful art. And yeah, I think that I really learned that in the artist's way, right? It's I think I can't remember because I did it a year or so, a year and a half ago, I think. So I can't really remember exactly the phrasing, but it was something along the lines of it's like, you know, as humans, we're meant to be creative, um, and that doesn't have to necessarily mean writing a song, painting a picture. You can be creative in so many little ways, and it's just for me, it's music. For someone, it might be something completely different. Um, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, with that said, I think that brings us to the end of this episode of the Why Music podcast. You can check back again next week for another conversation with another independent artist. Thanks for listening.